Wells without the wristwatch and back. We should probably follow up on that. We will when we get a chance, but that is a story from the last game played here. It is Peter Angelo able to feed this one off for Paul Coffey. Coffey with a pass that's on the money and brought further by Airy, trying to get away from Murphy, but the pass right back across to Derek Smith. Lemieux on him, and so it's fed on to Mellenby. Mellenby fakes, wanted to get the drive away, but couldn't. Scott Mellenby's pass tipped back out, and Wells will regather. Wells just risks one to the corner, and it popped back off for Airy. Chops it behind for Paul Coffey. Coffey accelerates, and now is able to bring it back further to hand on for Randy Hillier. Cut off by Murphy, and Murphy, moving into a sea of black and gold, just drops it back down, and Peter Angelo to tap behind the net. Dump back along the boards to Tony Tanti. Tanti bangs one back off, hoping for Airy, but instead getting Yuri Lottle. Lottle moving back ahead. Lottle pursued by Coffey. Puck shoveled across, and Rob Brown has it, handing on to Lemieux. Lemieux cruising in. Duels with, that time with Murray Craven, and the puck poked along for Mike Bullard. So the first rush of Lemieux was met by Murray Craven, and Craven comes up with this one. His pass, though, is tipped away, and striding right after it is Phil Bork. Bork, the aggressive winger for the Penguins, able to turn this one back to Zalapski, given up to Craven and laid on back to Shell Samuelson. 1 minute, 25 seconds gone here in the first period of our game. The teams are shotless and thus scoreless. As Zalapski is there, weak toss, though, picked off by Craven, but it is then intercepted by Phil Bork and rolled back out. Yuri Lottle to get it. Dumps it along, but the puck taken by Tocchet. Tocchet moving back in. Able to step through the defense. Couldn't control, but then got it at the last minute, only to have it tapped off his stick by Peter Angelo. Back on now is Peterson to Brown, who shot one that was tipped wide by Jeff Chikrin. Around the boards, Mike Bullard tapped it away from Lemieux. Back up it is taken by Rick Tocchet. Couple of Penguins on him, and Tocchet just cannot get any penetration, as it's Jim Johnson laying it back onto the stick of Paul Coffey. Coffey wiped out, then Tocchet wound up brushing into Ron Hogarth, and the fall in Coffey. This one dumped right back near Reggett.
Mike, what a difference in ice time for Mario Lemieux tonight. He has hardly been off the ice in the first, we played 2 minutes and 15, 20 seconds, and he is still out there cruising at center right now. Last night, he hardly got any ice in the first 10 minutes of the game.
Give away, and a shot went wide by Sinisalo as Paul Coffey didn't control it. Back around the boards, it's rolled, and waiting for it is Kartner for a shot that pinballed off the leg of Kite and is scooped up by Cullen. Left behind, and Tim Kerr swoops in, but then he can't get it from Recchi. Then given up by Coffey. Kerr a shot, another shot! And Peter Angelo with two big saves after two successive gifts by Paul Coffey. Back up now with it is Recchi. Eyed up by Kartner. Nice poke check by Kartner. It's turned back on for the tap by Kerr. Carried by Sinisalo. Drive is blocked down by Dahlquist. Recchi with a pass that is played by John Cullen. Cullen away from Sinisalo's checking. Shift change brings out Craig Berube. Cullen gets back up and trickles one along that's cut off by Acton. Dumped back off the boards for Berube. Sized up by Dahlquist, and the puck rolled across where Richard Zemlak is there. So a couple of the tough guys of the league, Zemlak and Berube, are out as Gillen lets a shot go that's tipped wide by Murphy. Along to get this now is Zemlak, checked by Pelle Eklund. To the corner, Murphy tries to hold. Jay Wells stands his man up. Staggering to the front is Gillen. Loose puck is just scooped away. Then followed up by Gord Dineen. Dineen with some room. Able to lay it off now for Lemieux. Feeds in front. It's deflected away by Reggett. Then scooped up by Lacombe, and up the wing it comes to Berube. A 2-on-1 with Eklund. And it's broken up by the man who was back. That was Dahlquist. Wheeling back up with it is Zemlak. Drops it over to Gillen. Shoots one, and it's tipped away to the glass by Reggett. Now Samuelson off the stick of Lemieux. Dropped on by Gillen. Fielded by Samuelson again. Little tap back out to Lottle. Yuri Lottle had that one poked off his stick. Zemlak, just having been called up from the Muskegon Lumberjacks of the IHL last week, hands on now to Gillen. Shift change on for the Penguins as Gillen floats one wide. Rob Brown comes in, tangles there with Berube. It's Hillier trying to roll one to Brown, then to Coffey. Shoots, and it's blocked down by Reggett as Paul Coffey got a good drive away from the slot. Scott Mellenby glides back out with it for the Flyers. 15.5 to go in this scoreless first period as Mellenby tries to shake by but can't. Poke checked away, and a good check on him, that time by Hillier. Now Derek Smith, the Sutter, score!
You won't find a line anywhere on any team that works as hard as this one. Derek Smith, Scott Mellenby, and Ron Sutter. Bingo. Double coverage on Mellenby. Why was Sutter open? Well, both Bork, number 29, and Coffey ended up in front trying to take care of Mellenby. Coffey went in double covered in the corner. That left Ron Sutter all alone right at the edge of the circle. Perfect pass by Derek Smith, and he one-timed it right by Frank Pietrangelo. 17th goal of the year. Boy, that first stoppage of play after almost 5 minutes, and it took a goal to do it. Ron Sutter's goal has given the Flyers a 1-0 lead here.
Smith and Mellenby get the assist at 4:42. Back to get this now is Jim Johnson. Tied up from behind by Craven. It's worked back but through Yuri Lottle, and so Samuelson comes by. Along now is Samuelson. Flings one right back in that is tipped to the corner by Pietrangelo. Brushed along the boards but into Craven. Forced loose by Bullard and turned back out now to Bork. Bork had that one checked loose by Samuelson, but a good hand back over for Brown, who tried to sneak one through to Peterson, then flipped back off Lottle, who still has Brown's stick. Lottle loses to Peterson, and then the two of them go to the corner. They cancel, and so it's Mike Bullard stepping ahead. He's got Tocchet nearby, but was really fought off on the play by Rob Brown. Craven pivoting for the Flyers. If you're just joining us, the Flyers have the 1-0 lead. Craven could not get through Zalapski. Troy Loney with a pass on out to John Cullen. Cullen moving along with Brown, but that one broken down by the checking of Tocchet and by the poke check of Jeff Chikrin. Karkner able to step back out, so the delayed offside is waved as the Flyers turn it back in. Shift change brings out Tim Kerr to the ice surface, as it is Dineen. Smoked out by the checking of Ilka Sinisalo. It's off the glass past Cullen and retrieved by Acton. Puts one into the skates of Zalapski. Worked back up ice now by Troy Loney. Dump and chase for the Penguins as Loney sends it to the corner. Sinisalo along the boards, lost it there to Recchi, and Recchi wound one around that came to Tim Kerr. Dropped it, but right to Loney. Good shoulder check on him by Jeff Chikrin. Sinisalo comes in and takes his man to the boards. Along now it is Cullen to the back, and Dahlquist a shot that is kept by Reggett for a stoppage of play. And then Cullen brushed into the back of one of the Flyers, and Cullen wound up catching. Perhaps it was a stick or something, but he's down in a heap.
Well, here's a reverse angle look at some of the action. The Penguins are in the Flyers zone. The puck went back to Dahlquist. He took a big shot on Ken Reggett that Reggett had pop out in front of him. And then Karkner moved in and pushed Troy Loney out of the way. Loney actually collars him from behind. Karkner, I still haven't seen what happened to John Cullen. He's at the top right of your screen, just skating out of the play. Boy, those defense pairs stick together. That was Jeff Chikrin that skated in and put that big headlock on Troy Loney. But Karkner is off. Loney is off.
And the call to both unsportsmanlike conducts at 6:26. Maybe we can tell from the blimp.
Oh, you know what it was? I think Jeff Chikrin threw a straight right hand and hit Cullen right in the chin with it.
All right. John Cullen is at the bench. Seems to be okay. Seemingly recovered well. Jay Wells back behind his own goal. Wells with a pass back out for Craven, who had just, Ron Finn, I think, may have called offside on that, but I thought also his whistle might have indicated too many men on the ice, but Flyers cut a break on that one, as you see Craig Patrick, the general manager, and still coach.
No, the Penguins chartered into Philadelphia last night after their game against Los Angeles. They have hardly chartered at all this year, but now that the teams are down to the short strokes, they need every kind of edge they can get. The Flyers still have 4 or 5 charters left in the season. And the difference between a charter and a regular flight is you get to the city that you're going to play in the next night, you get a good night's sleep. Otherwise, you go home, you get up, you make your way out to the airport, you take an ordinary commercial flight, and you get in perhaps late morning, and it really does take something out of you. But the problem is it's expensive to charter.
Delayed offside is eventually whistled down. Well, the Penguins did that all last year, taking commercial flights, and a lot of times they'd be in one city, not Pittsburgh, and fly to another city, not Pittsburgh, so they were not only waking up in a strange place, but going to another one. And they crabbed about that near the end of the year. They said, look, we're going to make the playoffs, we're playing really well, why do we have to be treated like this?
Well, you know, we talked about the Flyers being in top shape right now. They've had good practices for conditioning. They've only had one game in the last 7 days. The Penguins played last night. I would think that by the third period that might be a factor. But for it to be a factor, Mike, the Flyers have to make the Penguins use all 200 feet of the ice surface. They have to dump and chase in the Penguins' end, back the defenseman off, and have that fatigue factor wear them down. They also have to stand up defensively at their blue line. The Penguins like to try and penetrate on the rush. The Flyers have to have forwards coming back, have the D standing up, and force the Penguins to dump, so the Penguins have to use all 200 feet.
Puck brushed ahead. Here comes Coffey. Shoots one. Oh, and that was a drive that went wide. Along now it is tapped from Hillier, followed up by Derek Smith. Little pass on to Mellenby, but he's canceled out by the checking of Tanty, and then the two of them wrestle to the ice. Around the boards, it is cleared back out for Murphy, and Tanty and Mellenby, I think, are both going to wind up out of that skirmish with penalties. And that is the case. The minor penalties will be coincidental. All this occurring with 12:47 to go in the first period of a game in which the Flyers are leading 1-0.
Pittsburgh penalty number 9, Tony Tanty, 2 minutes for holding. Flyers penalty number 19, Scott Mellenby, 2 minutes for roughing. On the penalty, 7 minutes and 13 seconds.
Scott Mellenby and Tony Tanty were just set off for this little altercation. Tanty for holding, Mellenby for roughing. Both these teams seem ready to play. I'll tell you what, you're getting down to the short strokes now, almost the stretch, the last 20 games of the season. The Flyers now against the Penguins on the season have won 3 and lost 1. So with a win here tonight, the Flyers can just about cinch up that second tiebreaker should it come into play. Wins after points, it's number of wins. After number of wins, it goes to the head-to-head series.
That one fired back around and controlled and brought on by Dineen. Dineen fakes the drive, creeps along, past one to the slot. Well watched by Flyers, kept by Kite. Flips one in front that had to be sticked away by Reggett. Jammed on by Pelle Eklund, poked along by Kite. Gillen a drive, deflected wide. Getting a piece of that time was Recchi, and the puck tipped off of Craig Berube and back down. Well, Jim Kite will go back to get it, pursued by Lacombe. Good checking by Norman Lacombe, takes Kite out of the play, then Berube comes crashing in. Loose puck, though, came along to Gillen. 11 minutes, 50 seconds to go in the first period of our game. The score is 1-0 in favor of the Flyers on Ron Sutter's 17th from Smith and Mellenby at 4:42. Frank Pietrangelo and Ken Reggett are the goaltenders tonight. This one sailed wide. Going in to get it is Phil Bourque. Tocchet sizes him up. Bourque just dropped it off, and Tocchet stepped into him. Now the play on off Uri Lottle. Picked up by Bullard. Feeds one to Tocchet. Oh, and a save made by Pietrangelo as he dropped to his knees, and the puck was nestled underneath.
Well, the Penguins got caught cheating on the transition. Again, you saw 4 Flyers in that still frame before we let this roll. Rick Tocchet had it come right to his stick. Nice pass from Mike Bullard, and he just rifled it. Frank Pietrangelo had it hit him, but from that range, Tocchet just decided to surprise Pietrangelo instead of stopping it, picking a spot. He just let it rip.
Lottle with a toss back across to Shell Samuelson, and Samuelson just drops one back in. Jim Johnson back to play on defense, dumped it along past Mike Bullard, and it flies back where Lottle must play. Rob Brown forechecking him. Barry Peterson on the right side of Brown, and over on the left it's Phil Bourque as Lottle breaks through that with a little pass. Too far for Craven. Help came from the defense of Zarley Zalapski. Rattles one off the boards that Samuelson will go back to get. We notice that both of the goaltenders' water bottles once more are loose on the top of the net, and that only came into play and was really noticeable the last game when Ken Reggett had trouble clearing a puck because the bottle had plopped down on the ice. But it is difficult for goaltenders to pick up out of that rack, so that's the reason that as play moves around and you happen to notice those, and you may notice it in other rinks too, the bottles are always loose there rather than secured in the rack. Along with this now comes Rob Brown. Along the boards, hooked back out by Murphy, headman for Tocchet, but that kicked loose on the pass from Sinisalo. Randy Hillier, leading plus player on the team at a plus 17, leads it back ahead to Lemieux. Then it's dealt on the wing to Zalapski. Hammers one, and a save made by Reggett. Wells given a good bump in the corner by Richard Zemlak. Lemieux tries to reach it, but instead it's dealt along by Acton, then for Sinisalo, and Sinisalo just taps it further. Well, Zemlak a couple of times tonight has been out on the same shift with Mario Lemieux, and there's no doubt that protection is in order there from Craig Patrick. Moving in with this now is Randy Hillier. Hillier and Wells lock up, and Hillier, while falling, dealt one to an empty point. Paul Coffey goes back to get it at neutral ice. Zemlak has dropped back on defense. Lemieux is out there. We mentioned Hillier, and now Bob Airy. Airy cruises in, but Ron Finn says it was offside. Midway through the first period of our game tonight, Sutter's goal, the only one.
Brought up a good point, Mike, that Richard Zemlak has been out there quite a bit on Mario Lemieux's side. That's not a bad move. You know, we talked about the Flyers wanting to take the body to Mario Lemieux, really test out that bad back of his early. And with a guy like Zemlak out there, nobody's going to get out of hand. But Ron Sutter's line is out there now, and Lemieux's line is not.
Here's a 3-on-2. The drop pass to Cullen. Sets it up for a shot by Loney. He scores! Troy Loney, after Cullen had raced into the zone, took a hit, but got the pass to him, and the game is tied at 1.
Once again, the Penguins have proven that it's never late to be coming back into the zone if you're coming back defensively. If anything, the Flyers overcommitted and got in a little too deep. Loney was able to follow up on the play, but John Cullen really made a nice play. There's Ron Sutter on Cullen. Chychrun instinctively went back towards the net because he's a defenseman. He really should have been looking for Loney there. And Troy Loney scored one last night, a big goal for the Penguins. He got that one up high and got it by Ken Reagan, and has scored his 7th goal of the season to tie this game at 1.
Cullen and Recchi get the assist on Loney's 7th at 10:47. And so this game is knotted up at 1 goal apiece. And Cullen tried to start by again, lost to Samuelson, but then Cullen able to lift it back into the Penguin zone. The most impressive two Penguins outside of the usual Lemieux and Coffey have been this duo that teamed up on the last goal, John Cullen and Mark Recchi. They both had the assist on the goal by Loney. It is Cullen tapping on back, and Chris Dahlquist is there to play it. Dahlquist's pass was tipped off of Loney, who was sandwiched by Samuelson, moved back in by Cullen so that Dahlquist can advance the other way, and here comes Loney once more. Deals it across for a pass by Tandy, tipped wide by Cullen. In to get it is Loney, wedged up by Samuelson, out in front, Recchi, he scores! Mark Recchi ricocheted one off a flyer and in, and it's 2-1 Penguins. They don't ask how, just how many, and right now it is 2 for Pittsburgh.
You know, the Flyers have had a lot of trouble right around their net in the last few games, and apparently they have not gone away. Recchi is able to step right out. Ken Reagan might have been able to get over there a little quicker and help himself with the stick. But watch Pelle Eklund here skate by the puck and have it go right to Recchi. When you're moving like that, you have to make sure you're going to get it. And with that Penguin jammed against the board, there's no way Pelle Eklund could have been certain he was going to get it. What do? You stop there. You don't swoop through like that.
Loney and Cullen get the assist on Recchi's goal. So the Penguins with 2 goals, less than a minute apart, and have the lead 2-1 as Tim Kerr steamed one in on goal to Peter Angelo for the stop, then rolled along by Coffey to Airy. Bob Airy controlling here as the Spectrum 17,423 have become quiet. Down to the ice goes Sinisalo. Off the ice will come Randy Hillier.
Well, you got to run interference for your defense partner, but every once in a while you run it a little too strongly. Paul Coffey is trying to wind up, and on the left of your screen, Randy Hillier, number 23 of the Penguins, took down Ilkka Sinisalo, who was trying to cut him off. So Hillier is off for interference, and the Flyers' power play is out there, ranks 19th at home. But in a second, we'll tell you just how much company they have in the Patrick division of poor home power play records.
2 for the last 24 are the Flyers on the man advantage, and the Penguins are only able to kill off 2 out of 3. 10 for the last 32. Eklund just flying in, circles the net, shoved off, though, by Zalapski, and around it came for the clear by Zemlak, the keep by Lottle. Then across now to Murphy. To Lottle once more. Lottle flips to Kerr. Right on him, though, was Gillen, and so it has to be worked to the outside to Murphy. Fires, and it went wide, and Peter Angelo did not see that coming. Around it's tipped past Tocchet, picked up by Eklund, looks for Kerr, brushed in front, chopped at by Gillen. Murphy, a shot knocked down, rebound, fanned on by Tocchet, and lifted back down the ice, and the Penguins make a 4-man change. Bork comes out to work up front, Dahlquist in back along with Dineen. Peterson also up front for the Penguins as Bullard moves it in, but it was quickly chipped right back out again. Yuri Lottle hands it cross ice to Murphy. 6 minutes, 55 seconds to go. First period of our game. The Flyers scored first. The Penguins came up with 2, and that's where we stand. Lottle moves in, hands back over to Kerr. Bangs one off the boards that squirts back around near Lottle. Peterson's second effort puts it on the stick of Phil Bork. One man back, it's Murphy. Bork trying to go by. Scores! Phil Bork short-sided one, and it is 3-1 Pittsburgh on a short-handed goal.
Paul Holmgren has to be wondering if he's going to leave Ken Reagan in there, Mike. Has to. Short-handed goal, short side goal. There wasn't much there, but Phil Bork, give him a lot of credit. He put his head down and just decided to barrel to the net. Ken Reagan didn't leave him much room, but it got by him. Short-handed, short side goal. The Penguins now lead 3-1. Here's a reverse angle look at it. Here's where Bork makes his decision right there. So I'm going to go for it. Now Murphy pretty well cuts him off, and Ken Reagan looked as if he squeezed his legs together, fearing the 5-hole goal, and he ended up giving him the short side instead.
16 goals this season for Phil Bork, and 20 for Mark Recchi. Bork is just 1 goal short of his overall career high. Now here's Sinisalo staggering down, but that's broken up, and we're going to get a penalty call.
Well, the Flyers for a short while are going to have a 2-man advantage, a 5-on-3. Watch Ilka Sinisalo, number 23, take the puck, head to the net. John Cullen pulled him down. So he joins Randy Hillier in the penalty box. I think Hillier's got, 11 seconds left?
That's true. Off the face-off, puck comes back to Craven. Flyers are 1 for 12 on 5-on-3s this year. It went around for Eklund, then to the back to Murray Craven. Craven just controlling. It comes to Murphy, back to Craven, fires, and that deflected to the glass. Dealt back off the boards, and Craven will have to skate down after this one as the penalty time just now expiring, and out of the box comes Hillier. Pivoting with this is Murphy. Fires it around. It's a 5-on-4 power play for the Flyers for the next minute and a half. But the puck escapes across for the play to be made by Hillier and back down. And the Flyers hearing it from their fans as Reggett taps back out to Murphy. Gord Murphy controlling, looks toward Tim Kerr, guides it across to Craven. Craven plops one to the corner, back to play it as Loney, drills one that flops along near Eklund. They lock up on the boards, trying to jam it loose as Gillen, also Craven. Kerr able to step away. Tim Kerr bangs one around the board, stepping to it is Sinisalo, but it came by him to Murphy. Cranks a shot that's turned aside by Peter Angelo. Sinisalo rolls for Eklund. Drilled back off by Cullen, but a good keep again by Murphy. Flips one around the boards. Turning with it is Kerr. Can't get to the front as Paul Coffey anticipated that play well. Puck knocked down and Coffey just scoops it back out. Penalty time down to 40 seconds. Up the wing now is Gillen. Murphy watching him. Nice poke check by Murphy. And that will free it up for the Flyers to advance it the other way. Lemieux out for the short-handed Penguins now, who have half a minute still to kill. Moving it on for the pitchfork wide of the net is Murphy. Back to play is Dineen. Rammed into by Mellenby. Puck back to Yuri Lottle. Flips it along for Bullard. Pestered by Lemieux's checking, and Lemieux able to steal it and just tap it away. Lottle guides it cross ice to Wells. Then on it comes to Bullard. Nice little sachet move. Mike Bullard flips one that is blocked away by Dineen. Dineen dumping it along. Jay Wells swoops toward it. Punched away from him, though, by Dahlquist. Work to the back now. Penalty time is up. Given up to Dahlquist. Missed for Lemieux. And a shift change on now for the Penguins as they killed off not only a 5-on-3, but a longer 5-on-4. Moved along by Lottle. Taken by Rick Tocchet. Beats one that went wide of Mellenby back behind the cage. They try to wedge one another to the corner, and Bullard was unable to step away. Now up with it, it's Tocchet to the back. Carpenter a shot. Fought off by Peter Angelo. Mellenby steals for Tocchet, and he was back checked tightly by Peterson. Centering pass cut off and thrown back down by Dahlquist. Around the boards it rolls, and Reggett is there. Spinning one that is right on the stick of Bullard. Dumped back off, and it scoops up by Zalapski. Fired to the corner, then Rob Brown cranks a shot that is deflected into the seats by Terry Karkner.
Well, the Flyers had a good scoring chance as the Penguins' last penalty expired. Frank Pietrangelo lost control of that one. There you can see the puck. Scott Mellenby tried to get in front, and then he tried to set up Rick Tocchet. You know, sometimes when you're a little tight, you try and overplay. You try and overpass. Scott Mellenby didn't even go for a shot on goal there. During the 3 minutes and 37 seconds of power play time the Flyers had, they had one shot on Frank Pietrangelo, and the Penguins had one shot on Ken Reagan, that of Phil Bork, and they scored on it. Now Ron Hogarth is going to call more.
I think Jeff Chikrin, in an exchange with Mark Recchi, is the man who's going to go off, and that's the case. And so the Penguins, with a 3-1 lead, quickly bring out Mario Lemieux to start up the power play. It'll be their first of the game.
Top of the frame, reverse angle look at it, top right.
35 seconds. Championship fires to the minor, roughly.
Now the penalty was already being called. Recchi actually pushed back and threw himself off balance when he was trying to push Big Jeff Chikrin, but the Penguins' power play climbed 2 notches last night after their performance against the Kings. They now rank 4th overall in the NHL. And there's the lady that ranks number 1 overall in the NHL, at least in our director Frank DiVincenzo's mind.
Well, Coffey will be at the back, and Lemieux up front, and here's Coffey firing one that is deflected near Peterson and then sent back down the ice by Keith Acton.
My wife's watching. Baby, you're still number 1. Okay, I was only kidding. Don't ever change. I'll talk to you when I get home.
Here's Peterson bringing it back up ice with 3:05 to go. Unwinds one that went off of Wells, swirled around right near Lemieux. Lemieux back to Coffey, made Lemieux jump so it could go to Tanti. Dealt away by Samuelson. Lemieux flicks it back behind. Tony Tanti there tried to punch it along, but it came to Lemieux. Lemieux to the back now to Paul Coffey. Coffey waits. Back to Lemieux once more. Peterson creeps to the front. Lemieux fires, and that one blocked down. It is controlled by Tocchet, who moves it back out. His pass back checked away by Lemieux and taken on by Tanti. Works up the wing to Rob Brown. Flipped one that is golfed away by Jay Wells, and then he was able to bounce it away off his glove, but it is swirled back out of play near the penalty box, and we get a stoppage.
There is their ranking. 4th in the National Hockey League, but the Penguins are as good a team to use as an example of what I would like, and it's a column extension in the power play rankings. The Penguins have allowed 17 shorthanded goals against. That's number 1 in the NHL. I still think that those goals should be deducted from the ones they scored, and there should be one more column, a power play net column, because if that was factored in, the Penguins would not rank 4th overall.
Boy, Lemieux fired one wide. Cullen couldn't control, and Jay Wells starts it back out. Good headman pass on to Keith Acton. Crisply on to Craven. Tries to get by, and it's swept right off his stick by Mario Lemieux. Takes a bump from Craven, but is able to hand it ahead. Back up ice glides Paul Coffey. Coffey weaving his way in. Now deals one back off that is flipped over for Lemieux. Popped back for a shot that went off the glass from Zalapski. Dug out and worked behind for Cullen, but it is knocked away by Wells. Now it is Recchi. Recchi controlling, has Lemieux set up behind the net. It's given to him by Cullen. Lemieux looking for an assist. Beats to Coffey, a shot, knuckleball. Then Rega was able to pluck it as it changed direction, and he stopped play.
Mario Lemieux right away wanted to talk to Mark Recchi. They got this thing worked out. Lemieux knows exactly what he wants to do on the play. Standing behind. Now the Flyers defense just set up at the corners of the net. Samuelson turned to try and face the Coffey shot. And Mark Recchi is right there, number 8 in front, left alone until Eklund could get back there to get him.
I think Mark may have deflected that himself.
Looks
Maybe
like
that's
it.
what Lemieux said.
Yep.
Lemieux finesses over to Paul Coffey. Looks to Lemieux, deals it over to Zalapski. Lemieux sets up camp at the left circle and watches play flow at the near side. Here's Recchi moving in, handing it over to Cullen. Behind the net to Lemieux. Looks for Coffey again. Lemieux controlling, beats one to Zalapski. A shot pops up in the air and then held by Ken Reggae. Penalty time is up.
You know, the Flyers might want to hope Mario Lemieux gets in on more plays. Ken Reagan has come up the biggest so far tonight when Lemieux has been in on the play, trying to keep that streak alive. Lemieux set up behind, and Big Samuelson tried to go in with his reach and outreach him. But Lemieux dished it out. I don't think he was going for Zalapski at all, but it got its way right through. He was going for Cullen. It found its way through to Zalapski's stick. Lemieux wearing that back brace that he started wearing just recently, trying to take away some of the pain from that herniated disc in his lower back that's going to require surgery. And you know, the word on the surgery, according to the doctor in Pittsburgh, is that it is 95% successful. 95. That still has to be a scary 5%.
Yeah.
If you're the guy that's getting cut on.
Even if it's half of 1%, you still think,
Yeah,
maybe that's me. Puck poked along off the rail. It drops near Craven. The teams are at even strength. Penguins ahead of the Flyers 3-1 with 1:15 to go in the first period. Murray Craven steps ahead, taken to the boards and glass firmly by Johnson, and Johnson able to turn it back out. Boy, there are a lot of unheralded heroes among this Penguin defense corps. Don't get much attention because so much is said about how poor the Penguins are defensively, but they really put the body into you and play good, solid Patrick division bumping on the boards, and one of those is Jim Johnson. Paul Holmgren with the move of the scratch of Ken Lintzman and Brian Propp tonight. I cannot recall, even dating back to the early years that I followed the Flyers on the telecast here, that Brian Propp was ever scratched while healthy. So this may be a first for him. We're not able to trace it just yet. 13 shots for the Penguins, 7 shots for the Flyers. And off this face-off, it is taken by Zemlak and flung wide of Shel Samuelson. Ken Reagan out to get it, scoops it along. Lottle there to take, run into, but he's able to get the pass ahead for Tocchet. Tocchet across to Murray Craven. Falls down, but hands on to Tocchet. Tocchet tried to center, but that one blocked away. Along the boards, battling are Tocchet and Johnson. Behind the net, Eklund. Couldn't feed to the front. Tocchet behind, scooped one all the way back, and Samuelson had trouble taking it. Samuelson forced back further by Troy Loney. Johnson goes back to handle this. He and Randy Hillier. A couple of those aggressive, hard-hitting guys back on defense for the Penguins are out there as a pair now, and Johnson drives this one in as Gord Dineen becomes his partner. It is taken by Reggett, rolled around the boards. Pelle Eklund to get it for the Flyers. Dumps one back to the line, and Dahlquist will take it there as the first period will come to a close in this contest that sees the Flyers score first, and the Penguins come up with 3 to answer. Sutter at 4:42. Then 3 in a bunch. Loney at 10:40's home stretch of the year, over 15 days, playing 6 games. They'll have the New York Rangers in here on Tuesday. And on Thursday night, those impressive Toronto Maple Leafs. Leafs with 60 points. St. Louis playing tonight, though that game with Buffalo has not yet started, with also 60. And the Chicago Blackhawks, first place in the North Division, with 64.
Talk about an offensive machine. Toronto Maple Leafs, the #1 offensive team in the National Hockey League.
A lot of fans here will turn out not only to see the Flyers, but also welcome back an old friend from many years in Brad Marsh, a part of that Maple Leaf defense. Sutter rolls one that came right back to him, but was hooked away by Coffey, followed up by Jay Wells, and Wells plopped one behind. Dug out there by Derek Smith. Smith out in front, and a backhander is blocked away, but the checking of Barry. Flipped back along by Lemieux. Wells tried to keep, able to advance it to Derek Smith, but we get a stoppage of play, and they call it a hand pass. Jay Wells, the last game, inadvertently left his wristwatch on, and Eagle Eye Bill Clement was able to note that when he was boxed in the third period for a fight. And Jay explained today, I just forgot. I normally keep it on in the locker room before the game, but I always take it off. I forgot.
How could I miss it? It's absolutely fluorescent lime green, and it stood out. I saw him with it on again tonight before the game, but imagine, I haven't had a chance to check, but I imagine he remembered to take it off tonight.
Bullard on this face-off with Peterson, and it comes across for Samuelson's shot that is blocked away by Peter Angelo. Those of you just joining us, Samuelson with another good shot that Peter Angelo got a piece of. Rolled around to Craven. Craven pursued by Bork, and the two of them go to the corner. You're just joining us. It is 3-1 Pittsburgh, and I'm sure the next question most of you would have, if you haven't been watching the game, is does Lemieux have any points? He does not. So the streak is still sitting at 45. It is Samuelson flipping one back off. Murray Craven there, backhanded it, but it was cut off and marched on by Johnson and dealt back in by Peterson. Reggett with a little block out in front to Shel Samuelson. Samuelson with a toss that came back along to Bullard. Picked off, though, by Mario Lemieux. Lemieux trying to control, leaned on by Samuelson. Able to wedge it over to Coffey, then across for Brown. Moving in with it now is Cullen. Drops it on back to Lemieux. Lemieux able to feed, but it is tipped loose off of Tocchet by Coffey. Tocchet with second effort followed through and clipped Rob Brown with his stick, and on with it now comes Lottle. Yuri Lottle with a pass for Bullard, and a save and a rebound off of Peter Angelo, punched wide. Dealt right back up ice, and Recchi starts ahead with it. Picks up Paul Coffey. Recchi drops to Lemieux. Lemieux with a shot. He scores! The streak is now 46. The game is 4-1.
When you give this man time, something bad happens to your hockey team. That's exactly what happens here. I mean, it's a 2-on-1 situation. Jeff Chikrin couldn't have played it any better. But Lemieux just ripped that one off the post. Boy, I feel for Ken Reggett. This baby was absolutely either off the post or just inside the post. But that's how much room the great ones need. Reggett was out about as far as he could be to cut down the angle because he had traffic just about everywhere. His 44th goal, his 46th consecutive game with a point.
Well, Pete Peters may be coming on here. You just noticed Lemieux looking over his right shoulder. He was looking at Pete Peters, who is just getting limber and is now going to step out onto the ice. So Mario Lemieux with that impressive streak, which has now reached 46 games, and during that time, 39 goals and 64 assists. Ken Reggett exits and Pete Peters comes on.
This is the one time I am thankful that I was not a goalie when I played. I always felt sorry for the goalie. He had to make that long skate from being pulled, especially in his home building. It's one thing to get pulled on the road. It's another thing to be embarrassed, to feel embarrassment in front of your own crowd.
I'm sure you'd just like to leave the mask on so that the crowd can't see how you're feeling.
Yeah, good point. Maybe flip that switch and have the trap door just drop you down through your crease.
Pete Peters' record, you see, 07-4. Pete's had a lot of experience playing against the Penguins in his lifetime. His career record against the Penguins as a Flyer, Washington, and Boston goalie is 18-6-1. Jim Kite back behind the net. Shut off by Tim Kerr. Puck dumped along off of Chikrin. Lemieux finesses, and then it's rolled on ahead by Recchi to Coffey. Coffey flips. It's collared by Cullen. Rolls cross ice, but Ilka Sinisalo will step to get it there. 2 minutes, 20 seconds gone in the second period. 4-1 Penguins ahead. Here comes Acton around in front. Save, rebound. Oh, another save by Peter Angelo on Sinisalo as he stoned both Acton and Sinisalo in one fell swoop.
Flyers got a big problem right now, and he's standing between the pipes down at the Pittsburgh end. Frank Pietrangelo has faced a bunch of quality scoring chances, some great opportunities. One by Mike Bullard. He got his own rebound this period. That one by Keith Acton. Pietrangelo is hot right now.
McComb with a shot. Dineen deals that one around, and Acton is checked off. Now here's Berube out there as Murphy fires, and Berube was trying for the deflection, but it screamed right in on Pietrangelo. Another shot! And Pietrangelo just clutches that drive from Jay Wells.
Keith Acton showed us some of his speed on the off wing. He cuts right in front, and watch Frank Pietrangelo just stand his ground, follow him along and across, took away the 5-hole. Acton tried to go back up over Pietrangelo's left shoulder. Didn't happen.
Off this face-off, it's Eklund to the back to Murphy. Huge save made by Pietrangelo. Loose puck scooped back over to Richard Zemlak, and Zemlak with a toss that is tipped loose over for Gillen, and Zemlak will go with Frank Berube. Well, these are a couple of guys that know how to do it.
Oh, man, Zemlak had a hold of Berube's jackhammer, but then he lost the hold, and Berube just went to town. I thought for a second Berube was going to change and start going with the left. That didn't happen. He kept going with the right, finally got that big piston loose, started landing punches on the Zimmer. Jake Caulfield is out indefinitely with a broken finger that requires surgery. As soon as Caulfield went down, the Zimmer, Richard Zemlak, was recalled from the International League. And, you know, Craig Berube knows what has to happen now. There's no question that Berube went right over with the hip and challenged Zemlak along the boards. It was Zemlak that turned around and seemed to drop his gloves first, Mike. But Berube went right after him and tried to really drill him into the boards to serve notice. Right. Right for that big uppercut right there. And that was the one that Zemlak turned and just missed. Tough on the hands, though. You can tell the good fighters, the ones that fight a lot, they have sore hands. And you can tell the bad fighters that fight a lot because they have sore faces.
Zemlak gets 2 for instigating and 5 for fighting.
18 seconds.
And Berube gets 5 for fighting.
2 minutes for instigating, 5 minutes for fighting. Craig Berube, 5 minutes for fighting. The minor for instigation.
Here's the hit by Berube right here. That's the challenging hit right there. Zemlak answers the bell, turns around, says, okay, drops the gloves first, and that's why he got the instigator. Hey, Berube.
I don't think this will be the last.
I guess Chief won't answer him. Craig Berube doesn't want to answer him.
Well, now he looks over.
There is honor among these guys.
It is Craven wedging one away from Bork behind. Pocket is there. Just to interpret now, is what we were seeing the offer to do this once more? Maybe a little bit later?
I'm sure that's kind of an open invitation, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I say among these guys, I don't necessarily mean just Berube and Zemlak, but the people that have the same jobs on other teams.
Offside is called. We're going to have a penalty coming up here, too, and it'll be a flyer who will go off.
Well, we'll show you the penalty. There's Tim Kerr coming across, and boy, he caught Zarley Zalapsky with the shoulder as Peliakin was whizzing by. He is off for interference, and the Penguins are on the power play. Take that back. That cancels out Zemlak's instigator, and they're 4 aside.
Penguins will be on the power play for about half a minute. About a minute and 10 seconds from now. Oh, Tandy had a man flying up the wing. That was Coffey, but he just couldn't recover in time to pass. So it is Rick Tocchet to get it. Tocchett's pass is broken up, and now it is sent out in front for Lemieux. Fidgets his way across and nearly had it. Then a shot is high and trapped by Peters. Then we get a stoppage of play. Boy, that thing was just scorched, and I had trouble seeing it.
I didn't see it, but I thought I heard the ping. I don't know if it was crossbar or post, but it went back to Randy Hillier. First of all, Lemieux with one drag shift and another drag shift and actually went off his skate. And here's Hillier's shot as Pete Peters is trying to get up. Boy, did he have some net. Nice, it went off the crossbar. See Pete trying to find it.
Pete, we're in the same boat you are.
Yeah, we didn't see it either.
Well, neutral ice face-off to result. The Penguins will get their power play in 53 seconds. If you're just joining us, Loney, Recchi, Bork, and Lemieux, the goals for the Penguins, and Sutter for the Flyers. Sutter's came first in the game. The Penguins got 3 in the first, and then Lemieux's goal here in the second to further his streak. As he heads for Gretzky's 51, the streak is now 46. It is Murphy with a pass crisply onto the stick of Jay Wells. Laid back over to Craven. Moves in with Sinisalo, and Craven a blast. It is blocked away by Zalapsky. Oh, and then one slithered across the goal mouth from Murphy. Now Wells puts one that is tipped away from Craven. Jammed along by Johnson. He and Craven go to the boards, and Sinisalo comes in too. Ron Hogarth waits and waits. And now blows the whistle.
Robbins, if you are watching tonight, I'm sure you're not in a very good mood, but keep your chin up. 3 of us met Gwen the other night in Newtown. Rick McLeish was there, Tommy Lawrence and I. Made a new friend, the Flyers fan.
Frank Pietrangelo will take a look at the face-off that is now occupying the attention of Paul Holmgren. It will be Ron Sutter to draw opposite Barry Peterson. And controlled by Coffey. Paul Coffey's pass floated onto Peterson. Tried it back out to Mario Lemieux. Lays it up the wing, and here comes Coffey. Coffey with a backhander, turned aside by Peters and gathered in by Tocchet. Rick Tocchet with a pass stolen by Lemieux. Now the power play on for the Penguins. Lemieux out-fidgeted that time by Sutter, but the puck to the back for Zalapski. Zalapski just waiting now. This is a short power play. It's down to 15 seconds to go. Rob Brown working it across. It is dealt back by Coffey to Zalapski. Returns to Coffey. Right on him was Rick Tocchet, so he bounced one off the wall to Lemieux, then steamed across for Tandy, but cut off by Sutter and just shaken back down the ice. And with that, Kerr will be out of the penalty box, and the teams will be back at full strength. 14-10 left in the second. Penguins have the lead in the game, 4-1. Rob Brown across now to Zalapski. Wheels ahead and hammers one. That didn't miss by much, and what a scorcher that was.
I don't think I knew Zarley Zalapski could shoot it like that.
You don't get to see it too often, do you? He's usually playmaking on the power play rather than letting that big shot go. Here's Kerr moving ahead along with Sinisalo, but Kerr shot right in and eaten up by Peter Angelo. Dealt back around, but waiting for it is Jeff Chikrin. Tried to play it across to Acton, and it's outletted, and here comes Lemieux. Moves in, look, shoots, save! Made by Peters. Right back out in front, Recchi a shot. He sent it wide. Lemieux again back in front for Rob Brown, and a stoppage of play. We get a slashing call coming up against the Flyers, and the Penguins will go back on the power play.
Having played in the same division for the last few years, Pete Peters has faced Mario Lemieux a whole bunch of times on breakaways, and he sure got the better of him here. Waited for him to pull it, got the leg out. No mistake about it. Jeff Chikrin for the slash. See that stick coming from behind and just swatting Mario Lemieux? That was the penalty, but that didn't hurt Lemieux, but Chikrin followed up and just rode him into the boards big time. That took more out of Lemieux than the slash did, but it was the slash that was called. So the Penguins are on the power play, and the film has broken.
Now the pane of glass will have to be replaced. Either that or maybe it's a support out. Do we have a jagged piece up there in the upper left corner? I think that may be the case. Remember we had that once earlier this year.
Was it the last shot? I wonder that broke it?
I think, yeah.
Here he is, the double C, Charlie Zalapski with that rocket that surprised us.
Sign man, always ready.
We must have a shot identical to that. I don't know how long ago it was, but in another game right here, the break even looked the same. I counted the little star fingers going out, and there were 6 in the other one now.
You know, we're supposed to superimpose file footage on that when we reuse a picture. Well, the glass has been replaced, and we're ready to resume action. We should mention that Tom Barrasso will be lost to the Penguins perhaps for the rest of the season under very unfortunate circumstances. He's gone to Los Angeles, where his little daughter Ashley will have to undergo cancer treatment. The team has given Tom Barrasso an indefinite leave of absence. Boy, I don't know if you've ever had to leave home and close the door behind you and go to work, whether it's for 3 or 4 hours or for a couple of days as a hockey player would, and realize that your number one concern is being left behind with all of that emotional attachment. You know how hard it is to concentrate.
We sure wish him well. His little daughter is 2.5 years old. Her name is Ashley. So there are a lot of people around the National Hockey League, everywhere, that'll be thinking about Tom Barrasso and his daughter.
Treatments are probably going to take about 4 weeks' time, is the word we got from the Penguins, so they're not really counting on him the rest of the way, and just hope that things work out well with his family. Here's Terry Karkner with a pass that is tipped loose, swatted across by Paul Coffey, who will just take it and cause a stoppage of play on the hand pass. And with 13 minutes to go in the second, the Penguins lead in the game 4-1. You just wonder if maybe Lemieux will play less in the third period if the Penguins can enlarge their lead.
Boy,
he's really been bothered by that bad back, but boy, tonight he's had plenty of time.
To me, having seen the game last night, I don't think there's any comparison. He's got far more energy tonight than last night. You can see that on a points per game basis, he trails Wayne Gretzky. But last night he didn't seem to have any jump at all. He has already lost far more ice time than he did in last night's game against Los Angeles on a half-game basis, not on a total basis, but he seems to have a lot more drive tonight.
Puck worked across to Lemieux, deals it back to Coffey. All Coffey just waiting, shovels one in front, kicked back out by Peters and dealt off the boards by Shel Samuelson. And it's Peter Angelo scooping one behind. Gilles Meloche, the goaltender coach for the Pittsburgh Penguins. New goalie instructor for the Flyers, Chico Resch. Both have been doing a lot of work with the goalies on their team. Chico Resch is headed back to Hershey this week to work with Bruce Hofford and Mark DeMoore. Spend some time there, and will undoubtedly do the same here before the week is out. Coffey shoots one. That one knocked away by Karkner. Karkner ties up with Recchi. It's dumped behind. Shel Samuelson there. Wraps one off the boards that is chopped out of play by Derek Smith in just a 360 motion. And so play stopped with 12:04 to go in the second period, and the Penguins ahead in the game 4-1.
No, I think the Penguins might miss Kevin Stevens a little bit on their power play. He's a big, strong guy that spends a lot of time right in front of the opposition goaltenders. And you can see on this last power play that the Penguins spent most of their time just passing it around the umbrella. Lemieux was there, and Zalapsky and Coffey, and they just kept working it around. Nobody really in the middle of the Flyers' box, so the box could expand. Both Flyer forwards, Derek Smith was one of them, moved right out to that umbrella and really played the 3-on-2 situation up high and played it very well. But without a big guy in front, not really much point. It just blasted one through everybody to the crowd.
Ron Asseltine, one-time World Hockey Association referee, came over to the NHL as a linesman. Here is Lemieux. Tried refereeing a little bit, but then decided to go with the line. Ooh, that one hurt Keith Acton. He's back up and playing again as Lemieux is there to drop it on back. 24 seconds to go on the Chychrun minor as it's worked across to Tanti. Pass blocked away by Murphy, then worked over for Coffey. Paul Coffey deals it back up now to Brown. Lemieux directs traffic, says he wants it. Tanti to the back now, working it along with Peterson. Then over to Coffey once more. Looks toward Lemieux, creeps in, deals it off. Brown tries to slug one home, and Peters blocked that away. Then it's turned off by Wells for Sinisalo. Penalty time is up to Jeff Chychrun. Ilka Sinisalo with a pass that is deflected back in by Acton. Peter Angelo just flings it away. Boy, Peter Angelo has not played that much for the Penguins this year, but is showing a lot of confidence out there. And he came up big time for them in that first period when the game was closer. Moving in now is Brown. Hands back over to Coffey. Coffey waits, then shoots one that's tipped high to the air and out of play. 11:03 to go in the second. The Penguins keep their 3-goal lead. It's 4-1. Loney, Recchi, Bork, and Lemieux, the goal scorers for the Penguins. Ron Sutter for the Flyers. Buck came right in on goal. Pete Peters watched as Lottle came by. Dumped it back off, trying for Rick Tocchet. Yuri Lottle back in the lineup after missing 6 games with that injured shoulder. Offside called, and so again a neutralized face-off to result.
Well, the Flyers are hoping that Yuri Lottle, number 11, who has rejoined the lineup after missing a half a dozen with a slight shoulder separation, will really perk up their power play. I mentioned earlier in the game that the Flyers have had home power play problems. They ranked 19th in the NHL, but they got company. Of the bottom 10 teams, home power play-wise, 6 of the 10 are in the Patrick Division. Washington is 20th. Pittsburgh Penguins are 12th.
Bob Clark was lamenting today that the Flyers in the last 2 seasons of regular season games, that's 138 games counting, 137 games counting this one tonight, have had a completely healthy lineup one night. Drive by Recchi, and that tipped away by Peters. And that was in the fall of the 1988-89 season. Ahead with this is Mike Bullard. Took some lumber, but kept going after Troy Loney had swatted him. Dealt off the boards, and Dineen is there. Dineen right back across for Dahlquist. Moving on him is Tocchet. Tocchet puts the bump in. Flyers need to do something to get back into this one as the Penguins ice the puck. 10-11 to go. A lot of time left, second period, but the Penguins with a commanding right now 4-1 lead. They've outshot the Flyers 20-16.
The Flyers, thank you.
Big Pete Peters, who perspires heavily out there and goes through a lot of bottles of water during the course of the game.
I don't know if that's locked in or not. It really isn't. It's sort of hooked on the holder, but it's supposed to fit in the other way. You can see that hoop on the holder. And Ken Reagan, we talked to him before the game, that weird goal, and weird pass attempt that Reagan made from behind the net. The puck was on his stick, and all of a sudden the water bottle, which was on the ice, it had been popped off behind him, also was on his stick, and he couldn't get enough oomph on the pass.
Here's Wells firing, and a stick save made by Peter Angelo, and he'll just cover for a stoppage of play. Peter Angelo just took a swig from his as we see it as replay, and he leaves his completely out. See it there on the edge?
Yeah, Peter, yeah, it is hanging. The water bottle is hanging off the edge. He made a good save there on Wells. I didn't think it had...
Here comes Lemieux. Lemieux wedged by Murphy, and the puck harmlessly in on Peters. Great defensive play on Lemieux that time by Gord Murphy. Wells flips one back to the corner. Moving in for that is Mellenby, locked up by Loney. Sutter comes by, then Mellenby. This has been a line that has produced some opportunity for the Flyers. Wells shoots one, and that one patted away by Peter Angelo. And then Lemieux bumps firmly with Derek Smith. Around the boards it comes to be played back out by Airy, but kept alive by Murphy. Murphy flips one in front, glove down, and chopped back out by Randy Hillier. Left behind by Murphy. Shift change on now for the Penguins. Lemieux comes to the bench, and back out is Barry Peterson. Ahead comes Smith. Checked by Hillier, but Hillier, the one who went down, as Peter Angelo just scoops it by Airy, and it's taken by Mellenby. Lifts one that is tipped to the glass by Peter Angelo. Along the boards, Kartner. Nice keep there. Into the corner. Bob Airy ties up with him, and Kartner escapes. Centers one that came right across for the play to be made by Tanty. Cross ice over to Peterson. Watched by Jeff Chikrin. Peterson, big drive, knocked down by Chikrin. Then popped loose by Kerr and swung wide by Peterson. Penguins complete their shift change as it's Kartner steering it back across to Jeff Chikrin. 8 minutes and 40 seconds to go in the second. If you're just joining us, the Penguins have the lead 4-1. Mario Lemieux with a goal, and so his streak has been advanced from 45 games with at least a point up to 46, and the record is Wayne Gretzky's from 83-84 at 51. Pass for Bork from Rob Brown. Second effort by Brown. Cut off by Acton. Steered back up to Lotto. Then on to Keith Acton again. Acton moving in. Pass for Sinisalo. Then to Acton. Centered across the goal now. Sinisalo hustles after it. Dumps one behind to Acton. Acton given a good check by Zalapsky to the corner and held off. Peterson drops it along to Rob Brown. Brown pestered from behind by Kerr. Coming by to get it. Johnson up the wing. Open alley. Peterson. And getting a piece of that was Pete Peters, and it was tipped out of play. 7:57 to go in the second. The Penguins still by 3. There's a streak on the line tonight. Paul Coffey has not had a point tonight, and he's carrying a 13-point streak. Doesn't seem like much, does it? 13-game point streak, and in most seasons that would be impressive, be it one of the top of the league for the whole year. But it pales this year. Brett Hull is carrying a 19-game point streak tonight in St. Louis against Buffalo. Blues have the lead in that game, 2-1 in the second. The only other game underway is Winnipeg 1, Edmonton 0 in the first at the Northlands Coliseum. Offside pass call, and so with 7:39 to go in the second, and the Penguins leading 4-1. Take a look at Rick Tocchet.
Boy, what a year Rick Tocchet is putting together. 69 points coming into tonight's game. 29 goals, 40 assists. Leads the team in both of those departments, and is a plus 10.
Brett Hull has scored tonight for the Blues. That is goal number 52, and so his string goes up now to 20 games. Puck fed to Samuelson. Shot! Blocked down by Peter Angelo, and then he looked. I don't think he knew whether he had it or not, but it hit him. Then they battle in the corner. Along the boards, held by Troy Loney, jammed away from him. Rick Tocchet tried to get it to Samuelson. Outfought, though, by Cullen, and then the puck tipped over now to Lotto. Lotto's pass came across and is advanced back up the wing. Here comes Tanty. Moving in. Shot it wide. Off of Peters, and Peters trying to trap it, can't. Forced right back around again. Craven is there, but the puck fed to the back to Dahlquist. Shovel shot. Off of Peters and wide. Boy, the Penguins really flexing their offensive strength now. Around it is John Cullen. Cullen pestered by Craven. Still along the boards they work. Virtually every Penguin standing at the bench, and the Flyers rather glumly sitting at their own. Here is Lottle starting back out. Gets away from the check of Mario Lemieux. Yuri Lottle bringing it ahead. Flyers really need one for a pick-me-up here, as the Penguins have gotten 3 in less than 3 minutes of the first and then added a goal by Mario Lemieux in the second to take a 4-1 lead. Hooked around now by Eklund. Then over for Rick Tocchet. Tocchet trying to pull loose. Sprung off by Lemieux as he tried to shoot. Little pass out in front. Oh, that was nicely hooked across by Bullard, but then canceled out by Tanti. Lemieux just waiting. Bumped into by Bullard. And it is Coffey starting back out. Watched by Tim Kerr. Coffey able to shovel it back through. Jay Wells goes back to take it for the Flyers with 6 minutes to go in the second period. Virtually non-stop play. Shots are 21 for the Flyers, 23 for Pittsburgh. That's 10 for the Penguins in this period, and the Flyers 14. Tim Kerr there, locked up by Hillier, but Kerr able to steam his way by. Then tangled with Paul Coffey, and the two of them go to the corner. It's rolled along by Bob Airy. Greg Berube, who had the big fight with Richard Zemlak earlier, I think hoping it might be able to get his team back in it, took that pass from Kerr, but was quickly canceled out by Hillier. Kerr wraps this one around, and it came back over for Wells. Tried to one-time a wrist shot, but it is lifted along by Tanti, kept further by Wells, and then Tanti again dropped it back out, and Wells just turns it across to Murphy. 5:15 to go. Murphy fires a shot wide. Tanti goes in, bumped off hard by Pelle Eklund. Puck picked up by Jay Wells, forced back out to neutral ice. Boy, the Penguins are just really scrambling all over defensively, aren't they? They have the lead. They can take some chances, and they're quite aggressive out there tonight. Tangle at the line. Ron Sutter getting up slowly. Seems to be okay after that collision with Hillier. And it's a fair catch situation for Kartner. Back up the wing now for Scott Mellanby. Able to pull by Coffey. Mellanby around in front. The backhander went wide. Rebound. Derek Smith couldn't collar it. Hillier flips out of play. And so another face-off to occur in the Penguin zone. With 4:40 to go in the second. 4-1 Pittsburgh.
Craig Patrick behind the bench. Rick Keogh, ex-Penguin great, with the headset on beside him. Craig Patrick admits that he's not a coach, but it appears as if he's going to take this team all the way down the stretch and see how far they can go with him behind the bench. Usually very methodical, doesn't want to rush into a decision, and he has all along been assessing the Penguins to try to figure out what kind of coach, I guess, would best suit that team. I think we all have our theories. Maybe we can let them rip when we get a chance.
Oh, Ron Sutter on this face-off tangles up with Peterson. Now Chychrun shoots, and that blocked down. Into the corner, it went off of Scott Mellanby. Rolled along into traffic by Peterson. Peterson and Mellanby contest for it in the corner as we're down to the last 4.5 of the second. Tocchet has dropped his stick for a moment. Not sure if there was a challenge there with Zalapski or whether it was just coincidental. All the way down the ice, Peters with some trouble. Kartner flinging it around, and it's off the stick of Mellanby and back out. Scott Mellanby ahead along with Ron Sutter. Dumps one toward the corner boards. Tocchet trying to step by there. Able to out-finesse Cullen. Around in front. Mellanby backhander. Save made by Peter Angelo as Mellanby was able to walk right in front. And then Peter Angelo came up with a big stop. Now we have Jimmy Johnson and Ron Sutter squaring off.
Tocchet and Zalapski were just about to go at it as well. Ron Sutter from a kneeling position tried to jab Jimmy Johnson's skates out from under him. John Cullen right in there. Flyers have to be a frustrated hockey team right now. 4:03 to go in the second period. They trail 4-1. Scott Mellanby has been talking to himself for a long time, and he's got to be talking to himself again tonight. His second chance on just about a duplicate play from one a couple of minutes ago, walking off the right board, right out in front, and not being able to get it by Frank Pietrangelo. Scott Mellanby really started to go into a slump at Christmas time last year. He had 16 at Christmas time. He only got 5 the rest of the way. When I talked to him last week, he said, sometimes I realize, and I'm not sure anybody else realizes just how long it's been. It's been a very frustrating time, especially trying to rehab that severely damaged wrist and hand. But he's back and playing hard. He does everything right, except he's just not able to put him home.
And that's a critical thing. You were saying earlier, too, that the difficult thing is to receive a pass and get the shot off as quickly as you have to in the NHL. It's such a split-second difference between with the injury and before it. Ahead now comes John Cullen. Cullen pivoting and flipping one that is tipped right near Peters. He was able to guide it away with the stick. Then Tim Kerr takes Loney to the corner. The battle continues along the boards as Lottle tries to lift. Lottle able to forehand one that swirled out of play. And so, again, the clock stopped with 3:23 to go in the second, and the Penguins ahead 4-1. Okay, let's say that you have a defensively oriented coach, for example, a Brian Murray type, who comes in, specialized in defensive type of play of Washington, had one of the best defensive teams in the league. That type of defensive orientation, whether it be Murray or anyone else, how do you think that would work?
I think you have to start there, but I'm also wondering if Washington wasn't a defensive team because of their personnel by and large. I think you have to stress defense. That's what the Penguins are lacking. That's number one. But I think number two, you have to be a strong-willed guy because you're dealing with two real big names in Paul Coffey and Mario Lemieux. But while being strong-willed, I don't think you can afford to be inflexible. So it's a guy with a definite idea, a definite defensive philosophy, but a guy that is not inflexible in his thinking. You got to give these guys some range, not full range. You got to give them some.
Well, defensive hockey is a little hard to sell to guys that are used to getting 150 points a year. It would seem like it would be anyway.
It is a hard sell. That's why you have to have an exceptional individual go in there. A guy that is respected and a guy that can basically sell.
Puck controlled by Jay Wells behind. I think one of the things that you pointed out before, and a lot of other observers in the league have too, and it's not to take away from the skills by any means of Lemieux and Coffey and Kevin Stevens, but for their team, they have big minuses in the plus-minus category.
Now, that has to change.
One of the fans recently writing suggested that we go over plus-minus. Sometimes we just take for granted that everyone knows this, even though we have a hockey audience, many of them that follow the statistical categories. And so perhaps we can deal with that here as we're down on that two-line pass to 2:46 to go in the second. The Penguins have the lead still at 4-1.
Pretty simple situation, even strength situation. If your team scores, you get a +1. If the opposition scores, you get a -1. So a guy that is +10 has been on the ice for 10 more goals that his team has scored at even strength than his team has given up. And Mario Lemieux and Paul Coffey are the leading minuses on the Penguins team. Lemieux is -17. Paul Coffey is -15. I take that back. Now Kevin Stevens has jumped up to a -18. But, you know, at the same time, we're talking about what type of coach to have. Craig Patrick has been assessing this team from behind the bench. Now, he is most likely going to have to make some changes if he wants to improve his team defensively as well. It's not just a matter of working solely with this group of guys, because there are certain guys that will never commit themselves to defensive hockey. You need a chemistry. You need a blend.
Penguin fans we talked to. Here is Craven gliding behind the net, feeding one, and Carter's shot, was he ever stone cold by Frank Pietrangelo, who has just been sensational tonight. Puck kicked back along by Craven. Speaking with some Penguins fans the last couple of weeks on visits to Pittsburgh, and they're so happy with what Patrick has done, they really don't want to see a coach brought in until next year. And some of them are even saying if then. Even though the team has been just a little over 500 during the course of Lemieux's streak, and overall on the year they're a couple of games under 500, that's still the reaction. And maybe that's also a reaction to the change in administration, and they're just elated with Patrick right now. Well, we're going to have a penalty coming up as Troy Loney took down Tocchet, and so the Flyers will shift to the power play, needing really one here before the end of the second just to be back to within striking distance. 3 goals, of course, can easily be scored in a 20-minute period, but it would give them a bit of a lift to carry into the locker room.
We'll take a look at it. Terry Carson did a good job of just dumping it in front. He really threw it up for grabs, but grabs is what Troy Loney had on Rick Tocchet. With a minute and 47 seconds to go, hard-working Troy Loney sits down. The Flyers will try to close. 4-1, the Penguins lead, and have been, for a Penguins hockey team, a pretty consistent defensive team, and they've had great goaltending in Frank Pietrangelo. They've taken advantage of the chances that they have had. When you look at the shots, the Flyers have 24 shots, the Penguins 23. Very simple difference. The Flyers' shots haven't gone in. Pietrangelo has stopped them. And the Penguin shots have gone in. Terry Carson's chance earlier.
Murphy takes it from Lottle. Back to Murphy. That one is tipped loose to the corner. Eklund there, but it is swung back out by Johnson. So it is Pete Peters out to tap this one, and Murphy can take it. The last 90 seconds of the second period. 4-1, the Penguins in the lead, and 1:35, so there'll be some carryover time, barring a Flyers goal or further penalties on the minor Deloney that will go into the third period. It is Bork rolling it around. Johnson drives one off the boards. Murphy tried to scoop it ahead, fell, but played it to the corner. Dumped along by Zarley Zalapski. There to get it is Lottle, and then over to Eklund. Then to Kerr. To the back to Lottle. Yuri Lottle with a pass over to Eklund again. Final minute of play in this period. Kerr deals it to Eklund once more. Tocchet at the side of the goal. Lottle fires one that is tipped away. It is Zalapski away from Tocchet, and it's spun back down by Peterson. And again, the Flyers fans, who have been a remarkably patient group of people all year long during some real low stretches, some of them, and a very small number, are letting the team hear it. Back on now comes Yuri Lottle. It's dropped along to Mike Bullard. Bullard centers one, and that one is tipped away. Chopped at by Cullen. John Cullen able to lift it back out, and so Samuelson will go back in the final 20 seconds of the period. Very quiet here. Lottle with a pass back on to Bullard. Sized up by Dahlquist. Tries to punch it through. Sinisalo to Kerr. Gone on the play again by Peter Angelo. Boy, he's had some real 10-bellers, hasn't he? Wells locked up there as the horn sounds to end this period of play. Well, the Flyers want in the worst way to make a comeback here, but they can't even get the first step on it because of Peter Angelo's remarkable goaltending. Penguins with 23 shots overall, 10 in that period. The Flyers with 25, they had 8. Ron Hogarth will put the puck in play. See how well the Penguins can hold the lead and how much difficulty the Flyers have in overcoming one. But here's a follow-up and a quick shot by Mellanby, who's had some great chances tonight, but just has not been able to get them through Peter Angelo. All the way down it goes for Peters, who just scoop it along for Murphy. Gord Murphy brings it back up for the Flyers and shoots to the corner. Back for it is Tandy. Chopped one away from Sutter. Mellanby there, leaned into by Zalapski. And it's Mellanby once more, trying to jam it behind the net. Kicked along by Tandy. And a good hit on Lemieux, that time by Jay Wells. Wells able to spin it back along. Taken by Sutter behind the net. Spins away from Coffey, then leaned on, and down he goes under the weight of Coffey. Puck played back ahead for Tandy, but that one skipped by Wells. Mario Lemieux took a pretty good thump from Jay Wells, but stayed right out there. Now comes to the bench on a shift change following this icing call.
You made a statement in the second period, Mike, that we should follow up on. You wondered how much ice time Mario Lemieux was going to get in the third period. Well, Jay Wells, you're right, he really cranked him along the boards. And with a 4-1 lead, you wonder how much ice time he is going to get. But at the same time, you got to understand the Penguins don't have 4 forward line threats. They've got 7 defensemen. They've got 3 full forward lines and 2 other forwards. Through 2 periods, Mario Lemieux had 17 minutes and 49 seconds of ice time. Now, for a mere mortal, that's pretty good. But in his career, he has, in a lot of games, played far more than that. That is less than half.
He and Coffey had the most ice time among the Penguins through the first 2 periods. Puck rolled along back toward Acton. Sent it along the boards past Zalapski. Kerr is there. Kerr out in front, a backhander through the crease wide. Rob Brown turns with it for the Penguins. Rips one around the boards that came to Bork. Bork had that one gloved down by Samuelson. It's popped loose to the slot, and help came from Barry Peterson, and then Kerr taken down and headed to the box. After staring at the roof for a moment is Jim Johnson. So the Flyers to get power play number 5.
Well, there's no question the Flyers have had their chances. They have had their opportunities, but they have not taken advantage of their power play situations. They'll get one here. Jimmy Johnson really got his stick kind of tangled up in Tim Kerr. Watch Kerr, number 12 of the Flyers, go in front of Johnson, and then Johnson just pulled that leg that was supporting all of Tim Kerr's weight. Down he went, and off goes Jim Johnson. We'll try and track the shots on this power play to see how many the Flyers get.
We get these ice times during the course of the game. Kevin McGoldrick and Paula Petrie keep track of all this for us down the way. They work with Flyers assistant coach Andy Murray, the trio aligned next to us. Well, you just marvel at the science that this game has experienced over the last decade or so. Oftentimes coaches used to come in and say, what lines are playing together these days for the team that we're about to hit here? But now it's all scouting. Occasionally a team will send a guy in person, but most often now it's done by just watching satellite transmissions and telecasts. Flyers have some games still coming up on this homestand before they leave for what seems, as you look at it now, like about a year. If you've yet to attend a Flyers game in person, you can plan to do so. The Rangers are here Tuesday evening and the Toronto Maple Leafs Thursday. Tickets can be purchased at the Spectrum or all Ticketmaster outlets, including most Showcase and West Coast video stores. They go to Detroit, then back home to the island, and then a 6-game road trip that will last a couple of weeks. Just grossly exaggerating. The one plus to all that is when the Flyers get back from that trip, they'll have only 4 games left on the road the rest of the season. In the final 4 weeks, and all of those in the Eastern time zone, and only one of those a flight, that up to Quebec. They have one each with the 3 New York teams on the road, 3 New York area teams. Behind the net now with it is Eklund. Eklund able to work to the back to Lottle. Shoots one. Pad stop. Frank Pietrangelo. Rebound is poked into Pietrangelo's prone body, and we get the stoppage of play.
Pietrangelo has that X-ray vision working tonight. He has seen just about all the shots. Now, when you've got a goalie that's that hot, you've got to try and take his vision away from him. Here comes Lottle's shot. Rick Tocchet was trying for the deflection. He wasn't trying for the screen at all. But I would think at this stage, the Flyers got to think about taking away Pietrangelo's vision. I mean, he is really on top of his game. Well, was that Jimmy Johnson in the penalty box? But the defenseman that was out there, I don't think he knew that Tocchet was there. He just beelined away from the play.
Kevin Dineen has been changed from this shift. Paul Coffey and also Hillier out, and they lifted out of play. So once again, the clock stopped with 17:37 to go here in the third period. 4-1, the Penguins ahead in the game. What appears to be the turnaround goal now came on a shorthanded backhander from Phil Bourque from Peterson at 13:24. And Phil Bourque got his 16th of the year at that time, and boy, the Flyers really sagged. They sagged on a crazy bouncing second goal that ricocheted off one of the Flyers in front and caromed in. Murphy with a shot, that is tipped away. Ken Reggett just was not the usual sharp self tonight. Recent games, it has been more of a struggle for him. Behind the net, centering pass, quick shot by Kerr, floated right in on Pietrangelo, and he was able to stop the follow-up too, and hangs on for a stoppage of play.
Well, that's the second Flyers shot on the power play, and somehow the Flyers have to get the puck to the big man, number 12, Tim Kerr. He takes one shot and then just drives for any kind of rebound, and Mike Fuller just drops it out front. That's where he's going to be. There was the shot by Kerr, and you see how he almost always gets a second chop and very often a third chop at it. That's one of the reasons why he scores consistently, is he persists. He's got short-term persistence. The one shot, the second one, and the poke.
Behind the net, Rick Tocchet going for it. Kerr battles with him, and the puck came back near Jay Wells. Contest with Bourque to the corner. Good hit that time on Tocchet by Dahlquist, and the puck to the outside to Bullard. Bullard shoots one that is blocked away on Bourque down in a heap, having taken that one. And the linesman, Ron Finn, blew the whistle, stopping play. It was Finn rather than the referee, Ron Hogarth, who decided to halt play with now 12 seconds to go on the Flyers' power play.
Boy, did he ever take one. He looked like he got it in the ankle or just above the ankle, but below his shin pad. Mike Fuller decided to wind up and let it go. Why not? Look in the background. Look at Kerr standing there and Tocchet off to the side. Phil Bourque tried to do his best tango, jump up and get out of the way. It didn't work. He didn't even flamingo. Flamingo's when you stand there and lift up one leg. Bourque tried to jump out of it. See, that'll teach you, man. You can't do that. You see, the penalty killers that know what they're doing don't jump out of the way. He's a great guy. Great interview. Anybody that is looking to get into the business and wants to put together an interview demo, try and get in touch with Phil Bourque. Not right now. Let him recover from this. Now, I'm telling you, so many times you'll see a penalty killer, a guy at the top of the box, a forward, try to get out of the way, and you get hit. And the guys that block shots sit on the bench going, nah. That'll teach you, man. Don't try to get out of the way. And he was jumping to get out of the way.
Well, Phil Bourque replaced up front by Peterson, working along with Airy, and getting his stick on that hard shot was Hilliard. So everything working well for the Penguins, who really came prepared to play tonight. Even though the Flyers got the first goal from Ron Sutter at 4:42, the Penguins came right back with 3 in the span of less than 3 minutes, still in that first period. Then Lemieux added a goal in the second, and he passes ahead now to Tony Tanti. Tanti given a good jolt by Wells, and the puck taken by Sutter. Followed up by Lemieux. It's dealt along to Rick Tocchet. Tocchet just shovels one that went off of Mellanby, who can pivot and start the march right in. Centers one in front, and Murphy tied up from behind by Airy. Puck comes back to Sutter, slugs one wide of the goal, and we get a halt to play on an offside call. 16:02 to go in a very quiet Spectrum tonight. Third period of play, and the home team down. Returning to play, Lemieux with a pass on out to Gillen, and Gillen drops it back in. 4-1 Pittsburgh. If you're just joining us, your first question is probably having to do with the streak. Lemieux did not have a point on either of the first 3, but got a goal, his 44th of the year at 1:59 of the second. That's the last goal scored in the game, so his streak is up to 46. Penguins on the road for a bit. Next time they'll be at home will be a week from Tuesday when the Flyers come in. Pass ahead now, and Acton tried to jam it further, but it is turned back out, and so Kartner will go. If it goes all the way to the 51st game, that'll be Pittsburgh and the Islanders, and if it takes 52, it'll be a big test. Montreal, the last team that was able to shut Lemieux down, will have the chance to stop it. Puck flipped out in front, and Kerr leaned on. Now Terry Kartner steps by. Kartner rolling it around, and Acton takes it, sweeps one out in front, and this one cut off and laid back along for Terry Kartner to get. Kartner stepping on. Can't get through the wedge of players, but it's kicked back away from Acton. Acton given a chop and then returns it with Dahlquist, and Dahlquist goes down, and Acton could get a 5er out of this. And if it's a 5, he's out. Now Acton going back in the direction of Dineen, and the linesmen get in between. Now Tim Kerr glaring at Cullen, and they paw at one another. Frustrated Flyer squad tonight.
Boy, Gord Dineen got collared by Terry Kartner. Now Big Chikrin is in there going at it with Troy Loney.
Keep in mind the Penguins are short one guy because Dahlquist was hurt.
But it was Tim Kerr and John Cullen, number 11, that started it. And now Kartner's going to town on Gord Dineen. The big bear hug down on the ice. Jeff Chikrin's on top. Troy Loney, number 24 of the Penguins, is underneath. But it started with Pete Acton two-handing Dahlquist, and then John Cullen taking exception to it. Here's the original penalty that really started it all. Dahlquist went over to take Acton, and Acton swung around and gave the stick to Dahlquist. Looked like he hit him in an area where he should have been padded, but it may have caught him between his shin pads and his pants. There's the Flyers side of the ledger. Acton, Kerr, and Chikrin. I'm looking for Terry Kartner. Is he still down there, or did Kartner get sent to the dressing room as well as Dineen? They were the two that may have been warned by Ron Hogarth not to engage by really disobeying him. May have gotten thrown out because of that.
Well, we have a man down there armed with a microphone who will be giving us the official announcement, Lou Nolan, momentarily, but Kerr sought out Cullen.
Watch Tim Kerr start throwing those lefts. There's Kartner going and grabbing Dineen. Whoa, did he grab him? Well, Dineen went in and grabbed Kerr. That's, I think, why Kartner went in and grabbed Dineen. Dineen went to help John Cullen. Then Jeff Chikrin started to tee off on Troy Loney. Derek Smith let him go. Well, the Flyers would stand to pick up extra penalties out of this, especially because the original was called to Keith Acton.
May have had a third man in there, too. It all depends on how it's defined by Ron Hogarth. He's been conversing with both the other Rons, Asseltine and Finn. But I agree. I think they're going to get at least one and maybe a two-man advantage out of this.
Hasn't been all that busy a night for the Ronettes, for the three Rons. Ron Finn, Ron Asseltine, and Ron Hogarth, who are our officials tonight. Not like last season. The Penguins and the Flyers haven't in general produced the sparks that they did all last season. And coming into tonight's game, the Flyers, in their 4 previous games against the Penguins, had won 3 and lost 1. Unless they can close in this one, it'll be 3 wins for the Flyers and 2 for the Penguins. Here are the penalties.
Flyers number 29, Terry Clarkner. Each 5 minutes for fighting. Each a game misconduct. Pittsburgh penalty number 24, Troy Loney. Flyers penalty number 6, Jeff Chikrin. Each 5 minutes for fighting. Each a game misconduct. Pittsburgh penalty number 11, John Cullen. 5 minutes for fighting, plus 2 minutes for instigation. Flyers penalty number 12, Tim Kerr. 5 minutes for fighting. Pittsburgh penalty number 8, Mark Ritchie. 2 minutes for roughing. Flyers penalty number 25, Keith Acton. 2 minutes for slashing, 2 minutes for roughing.
I think it all...
Time of the penalties, 12 points to them.
Yeah, everything cancels out. Well, those are looks that show volumes, don't they?
John Cullen, I'm sure, is saying, what do you think I did? Instigated by leading with my chin against Tim Kerr's left fist?
Well, there'll be no change in manpower on the ice, but there's some guys who are lost. Get out the big book and double check to see whether there might be any game misconducts that will result in suspension. These are not six related, so it takes 3 of them during the course of the year to get tossed for a game. This is Karkner's second in that category, Chikrin's first. Penguins have lost Troy Loney, and for him that is the first that he's had on this type. And Dineen, it's his second, so no one will be suspended as a result of this unless there's some additional action coming from the official's report, which I doubt there'll be. To the corner they go now, Craven and Zalapsky. It is turned to the boards, and Sinisalo is checked and held there by Johnson. Puck poked along, and Derek Smith. Smith trying to battle his way by Barry Peterson. Peterson able to play back out. Crisp pass on to Phil Bork. Bork got a step on Samuelson, racing back in. Here's Bork trying to get a shot away, and with his body kicked it wide after Samuelson had checked him off, and he passed. Lotto hands back over to Shell Samuelson, turns it back on to Craven, up the wing on to Derek Smith. Smith taken off by Zalapsky, then plays from Sinisalo, and Samuelson a shot that went off his skate. A couple of players down to the ice, fans protesting that no penalties were called as Rob Brown sails it back in. Samuelson goes to get it. Turned it right back out, and Bob Airy is there. Not seen a great deal of change in the play of this game, other than the fact that we haven't seen Lemieux lately until just now he moves in, peels off, and takes a look. Hands it over to Randy Hillier. Taps toward the corner. Tandy there, given a shove by Jay Wells and Ron Sutter. Pass broken up by Lemieux. Lemieux's been pesky tonight in terms of his energy in the game and also his checking. Centered one out this time for a short side shot that couldn't be sent home by Tandy. Rolls one in front again, and this time it was Tandy checked off from behind and given a jolt by Wells. Still, they work for it in the corner. Wells staggers down, but it is Sutter to play as the clock just ticks down to 9 minutes and 22 seconds to go in the third. Ron Sutter moving ahead, dropped one that is picked up by Barry Peterson. Peterson controlling away from Tockett and lays a pass right on the money to Paul Coffey. Coffey cruising behind, drops it over for Zemlak, then to Gillen, and the shot went wide. And a nice combination pass from Coffey to Gillen through Zemlak. Then Mellenby flips one in front. Tockett hit the post with the shot. And Peter Angelo turned it along, but the Flyers keep it alive with a pass that misfired for Samuelson. Back up the wing now comes Big Richard Zemlak. Zemlak trying to turn by Lotto, and the puck went right in on goaltender Pete Peters. 8:44 to go in the third, and the Penguins have a 4-1 lead on the Flyers. you've got to give some kudos to Richard Zemlak, who was known as just a sixth column guy, a big penalty minute guy, but he went to the minors, worked on his game, and was averaging a point per game in Muskegon. Here was the play that almost went in off target.
Right off the post. Well, the Flyers have taken the shot lead now in the game. 31 shots for the Flyers, 25 for the Penguins. And they have really outchanced the Penguins since the first period. But Frank Pietrangelo has been very strong.
Clock 8:44 to go, it shows. Should Pittsburgh go on to win this, the Penguins would be tied with the New York Rangers for third. Glove delay. Tim Kerr's glove had to be fixed. So that done now. No penalties up on the penalty time clock because all of those canceled. So after the first whistle, there'll be a release of 4 players from the penalty box. Loose puck taken behind, trying to step to the front with it, and being wedged off all the way was Recchi, fought off that time by Bullard. To the corner, Richard Zemlak locked up there with Yuri Lottle, and Samuelson puts the shoulder into Gillen. Pivoting with this is Recchi once more. Taken to the boards by Bullard. Back along it came towards Samuelson, then kicked back up to Craig Berube. Starts it back for Bullard, but that tipped away. Bullard regathers. Gets away from the check of Jim Kite. Flips one over for Eklund, but a good stick check on him that time came from Gillen. Jump behind to Jim Kite. Some guys who haven't played a whole lot in the game are out now. We've not seen Kite that much. Chris Dahlquist we've seen on a regular basis. Puck turned behind, and Kite goes to get it. Swings it around the board. Back to Murphy. Shoots one, and that one deflected away by the pad of Pietrangelo. Frank Pietrangelo has turned aside 30 of 31 Flyer shots tonight. Moving along with this one is Pelly Eklund. Drops it on to Bullard. In front for Murphy. Tipped away by Bill Bourne. Well slides it around the boards. And the pass out came from Bullard. Jammed right back along by Eklund. And then Wells with a shot that is tipped high into the seats. And play stopped once more.
Well, maybe one of the reasons Big Jim Kite, number 3 of the Penguins, was out there was because Craig Berube was also out there. Yikes, that was Randy Gillen on number 19 that was looking the wrong way when Craig Berube downed him.
Shell Samuelson will stride back to play this for the Flyers. Dumped it along, and it is controlled by Lottle. Yuri Lottle's pass is kicked away by Peterson. Patrick Division race. The Islanders on top with 62. New Jersey and the Rangers tied for second at 56, and it could be a 3-way tie if the Penguins go on to win this, showing all indications of that. Capitals would be 2 out of the last playoff berth, and the Flyers would be 4 points out. Sinisalo with a pass on now to Craven. Craven stepping along. Zalapsky there. Craven sent one across the goal mouth that was tipped away by Pietrangelo. And it is Rob Brown bringing it on. Brown, who had a hat trick, including the 3rd goal into an empty net last night. Plays it along for Johnson. Stepped into on the play by Murray Craven. Puck hooked along now for Sinisalo to play across to Lottle. Lottle's pass on to Ilka Sinisalo, and that one floated back. Flyers in the midst of a change. And it is Wells stepping along. Boy, it looked like the Flyers had a goalie and 7 out there for a moment, but a couple weren't involved in the play and were headed off. Down to the last 6:05 here in the 3rd period. Penguins have the lead in the game, 4-1. Ron Sutter just bumped off by Randy Hillier. Back up with it comes Tanty, moving along with Mario Lemieux. Just plops one toward the corner, and Pete Peters comes out to get it. If you're just joining us, Pietrangelo superb in this game. Ken Reggett suffered and had to be taken out after yielding the 4th goal. And that was the last one scored. Seemed like a long time ago. It came at the 1:59 mark of the 2nd period of this game. So Pete Peters came on in relief of Reggett, and that's where we've been since. Ron Sutter, while falling, got a shot away, but Pietrangelo got that one too.
You know, the Flyers have been able to generate scoring chances, Mike, when they've gotten in deep, penetrated, and worked their forechecking game. And remember at the start of the game, I said they should really try and force the Penguins to play this game in all 200 feet of the ice surface. I don't think they've done that. They have had their chances. There's a good one by Ron Sutter. But so many times in the third period when the Flyers have had a chance to perhaps dump and chase and outnumber the Penguins and outwork them and outmuscle them, they have tried to carry at the blue line. And I got to give the Penguins forwards credit. A lot of times bad defensive teams have their defensemen ripped up and down, and there was an article in the Pittsburgh newspapers yesterday ripping the Penguins defensemen. That's a bunch of bull. It's the forwards. I mean, these kids work hard out there on defense. And tonight, the forwards, especially in the third period, have been coming back, helping the defensemen at the blue line, and the Flyers have just hit bottlenecks, and they've not done anything about it.
Here is Zemlak ahead. Bouncing one to the corner. Samuelson in there. Chopped one that popped back over to Kerr. Pass went behind Mike Bullard. Drilled right back in by Dahlquist, and around the boards where Kjell Samuelson will try again. Well, pretty dispirited Flyers group as you look down at the bench area. The Penguins, of course, sitting up alert, and why shouldn't they be? They've come to play a very strong game here tonight, and despite falling behind 1-0, came up with the next 4 and have had a commanding lead. And as Bill pointed out, a good deal of that has to be given the credit of it to their goaltender, Frank Pietrangelo. Every time the Flyers seem to be getting a rush on and might have a good offensive flurry, why Pietrangelo would shut them down, and then more time would expire, and then the Flyers would come back again and again. The 5'9" goaltender would be right there to make the play. Driven along by Johnson and spun back out again by Peterson. Up the wing here comes Phil Bourque, and Bourque had that poked away by Murphy, and Murphy gave Bourque a jolt to the corner. Puck picked up by Pelle Eklund. Eklund's pass is tipped loose by Zalapski. Pocket drops it off, and stepping free with it now is Murphy. Dives to try to punch it in further. Make no mistake, they still care very much about this team. They've just become silent through discouragement this evening because they've seen several chances just be shut off by a Pittsburgh goaltender. And they've also seen this several times this year. Tonight, they would have probably liked to seen a Flyer lead into the third just to see if the team could do something that it hadn't done before, and that's in recent games anyway, and that's hang on to it. But the Flyers began this period down by 3, and they are still down by 3, 4-1, as we're down to the last 3 minutes and 55 seconds. Puck brought back up by Jay Wells. Ron Sutter boomed to the boards, and the quiet most certainly noticed by the home team, but it becomes music to the ears of a Penguins team that has not had a lot of success here, though they finally got a win after so long a time of frustration. Pocket shut off by Pietrangelo, and now there may be a little more, but Allenby seemed ready to go there, but play stopped with 3:32 to go, and for right now anyway, there is peace. To Wells. His shot is slowed down by Recchi. Wells over to Murphy. Fires! And that one blocked away by Pietrangelo, and the net dislodged.
I guess this is the first dislodgement of the evening, isn't it?
I recall one at the other end, I think, earlier tonight.
Well, you're wrong.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Jamie, is he right? Okay, then I'll give you the one at the other end. There have only been 2 of them, and I'm glad to see it. I don't know what it is. There hasn't been a lot of congestion around the net, and we've noticed in the third period. I have another couple of good scoring chances for the Flyers right around the net, but they haven't played enough in the trenches. I mean, that's where the Flyers are a little bigger and a little stronger than the Penguins, and by not dumping, by not chasing, by not establishing that forechecking game, they really, I think, the Flyers took away some of their potential in this game tonight.
Saw John Cullen close up just a moment ago. Cullen set up the first 2 Penguins goals that came less than a minute apart. What have we here?
We've got John Cullen trying to get back at Keith Acton. Cullen gave Acton a big whack from behind and then came with kind of a roundhouse uppercut. But the Penguins want a piece of Keith Acton. They all saw him slash Dahlquist right in front of the Penguins bench that started that big fight scene we had here about 10 minutes ago. There's Acton moving in and hitting one of the Penguins. And here comes Cullen. Ooh, look at Acton. He knew he was coming. There's Cullen with the stick, and watch this right hand come. Right there. Boom, right on the top of the helmet.
Pittsburgh penalty number 11, John Cullen, 2 minutes for high kicking. 15 minutes, 52 seconds.
Well, you heard that announcement from Lou Nolan. The Flyers to swing on the power play again. With 3 minutes and 8 seconds to go here in the third. Tocchet and Kerr, along with Eklund up front. In back, Murphy and Murray Craven. Barry Peterson and Bork. And for the Penguins, it is Johnson as well as Zalapsky. Craven starts in. Zalapsky takes him to the corner. Then it's Tim Kerr behind. Knocked loose off of Tocchet. Kerr tried to muscle his way to the front. It's back for Tocchet. Steps in front. Tried to get it to Kerr, and he was fought off by Zalapsky, who is helmetless right now. Puck comes back to Eklund. Deals it along to the turning Craven. Then over to Murphy. Murphy back to Craven. A shot and a save made by Peter Angelo again. It is Craven walking to the dot. Gives to the back to Eklund. Pulls Bork toward him. Hands over to Craven for a wrist shot that went wide. Puck dealt off the glass and back down. Well, Frank Pietrangelo has faced 35 Flyer shots in the game. The Penguins have gotten 25. Paul Coffey glides back here as the power play is nearly half over to the Flyers. If you're just joining us, it is 4-1 Penguins. The streak of Lemieux has been advanced one more game. He's gone now since Halloween. 46 games with at least a goal or an assist in each contest. Murphy's pass ahead now for Bullard. Poke checked away by Coffey. Walked in by Tocchet to the back to Lottle. Then over to Murphy. A shot and a pad stop made by Pietrangelo. Murphy with a good keep at the line. Murphy shovels off to Mellanby. Still looking. Mellanby controlling, and the fans getting restive here. Want to see something. It is sent to the back to Lottle. Big drive, and that one ricocheted off two players. Came back over to Bullard again. Down to the last 25 seconds. It is Murphy. Watched tightly by Gillen. Lottle a shot, and that's blocked away by Randy Hillier. Hillier with a pass that's kept alive by Lottle. Lottle forced off, though, by the checking of Recchi, and he can send one trickling back down as we hit the last minute 15 of the third period. 5 seconds to go on the power play. Mike Bullard trying to get it through, and Zemlak knocked it from him. Then Bullard drops it behind. Out of the penalty box comes Cullen, and the teams are back at full strength, and Lou Nolan is about to inform the fans.
Last minute of play in the third period.
And some sarcastic applause coming with that announcement as Yuri Lottle is there, pulling away from Zemlak. Lottle walking on. Now across to Shell Samuelson. So the Flyers will be 22, 27, and 8. Sinisalo with a shot that trickled wide. And the Penguins will move up into a three-way tie with the Devils and the New York Rangers for second place. And a good way to start their road trip. Dahlquist walking on. So the Flyers will have to re-examine. They have the New York Rangers. Bernie Nichols and company coming in here on Tuesday evening. So they have a day to get ready for that as we're down to the last 10. Loney, Recchi, Bork, and Lemieux were the goal